First of all, I have to confess I'm not a car designer's bottom, although I love both bottoms and cars. I'm not going to talk tonight about public transport. I'm not going to talk about whether the planet can sustain 500 million cars, which it is sustaining at the moment, sort of. Why Japanese cars have such silly names, or BBC Top Gear. Okay. Oops, that's not the first slide. Anyway, that's the second slide, I think, so I've got away with one. The first one was American tail fins and stuff like that, where cars were styled, they were fashion items. This car, the Citroen DS19, was regarded as the most beautiful car in the world, and this just illustrates the diversity of thinking. Car designs are often about packaging. You've got an engine, you've got somewhere for the luggage, and you've got some passengers, and these are two approaches. I think a previous speaker alluded to this car, which has been described as the most minimalist car ever built. It has no door handles, one windscreen wiper, one headlight. It was a Citroen 2 Chevaux, 2 horsepower. It was a favourite of Le Corbusier, and really what I'm talking about is car design. This is up to date. This is Zaha Hadid, who's probably the best export that Iraq has produced. And it's curiously symmetrical as compared with her buildings. She's, like a lot of architects, which is the theme here, are fascinated by car design. These pictures, by the way, are totally out of sequence, but I'll deal with it. And the Fiat 500, we just talked about, Fiat have always had an obsession about design. They've hung with it. The car on the left is, the vehicle on the left is not a Fiat. This is Ratan Tata, who's the modern day Model T. He decided that 600,000 Indians dying on the roads every 10 years or something was unacceptable, so he came up with the world's cheapest car. Now, this is seriously out of sequence, but this is the first idea of an electric car, which is so boring. It's soap. It's a bar of soap on wheels. And we know that electric cars do not have to have radiators at the front because they don't have cooling. But, for God's sake, we can do better than that. And then getting on to the iconic thing, the theme of architecture and design and cars. These are 3 elevations of a well-known car, which was voted number 2 most important car in the world after the Model T Ford. It's an exercise in packaging, and design, to me, is all about affordability. It's the affordable house, the affordable car. This is Buckminster Fuller, who had a bit of a flirtation with cars. This is the Dymaxion. Everything he did was called Dymaxion because he was going to save the world. This car was, in 1933, pretty advanced. Unfortunately, it crashed and killed the driver. And the only car it's apparently influenced is the Volkswagen Combi. Le Corbusier, who couldn't bloody well stop with buildings, had to design this car, which was an aerodynamic masterpiece. And presumably everything that he designed had to be, this was actually the first slide. So this was, how the Americans saw car design. It was all about style. It was all about sort of destroying the planet, really, as we come to see retrospectively, and how you couldn't be seen, in proper circles without having the right car. It was like an accessory. And then leaping forward 20, 30 years, Ferrari, a green Ferrari. Now this Ferrari has a giant cell phone battery underneath it, which lowers the centre of gravity. They use a system called KERS, which recovers energy when you're braking the car, which recharges the battery. This was the Model T Ford, going back, which was the first car that started the whole bloody thing, the whole 500 million. Started with this. Henry Ford said, if you could drive down a country lane with roses and lovely smells, he didn't realise that his dream would lead to a nightmare. The Model T was painted black, not because Henry liked architects, but because it was the quickest drying paint. Then we had, in Australia, which is our next door neighbour, there was a crazy Queensland farmer who said, I want a car that can drive my wife to church on Sunday and my pigs to the market on Monday. And so the ute was developed. Now this is the ultimate. This was supposed to be the last slide, but we'll go with it. This is the ultimate in self-drive. You know, if driving is a dignity, if you know how to do it properly, it's incredibly enjoyable, and you can steer wherever you go. That Formula One hero. And even nowadays, we're getting retro cars. This was a car that polluted most of East Germany. It could be seen driving along motorways in a cloud of blue smoke. And now it's got photovoltaic panels on the roof, which charges up the air conditioning. This is how car design is not particularly easy, and like nowadays it's a committee thing. Cars evolve, they're worked over a period of a year. This is the 458 Ferrari, which is shrink wrapped, which is the concept of having the mechanicals and then shrink wrapping the body over them. This is another, I think, was a progressive type of car. This is a magazine, by the way, called Car Design. And this is a BMW, who are like normally very boring German company. And they built this car with so many gaps and nozzles and stuff to collect air and disperse air and so on and so forth. This was just a blatant architectural drawing showing that if you've got a lovely drawing, you'll get a lovely engine. Because design is not just about the body of the car, but it's also about the mechanicals. This is one of the original Ferrari V8s designed by Mr. Colombo. And, you know, architects and cars are never far apart. This car is probably more gaudy than Gaudi. But, you know, as people who aspire to Aston Martins get older, they acquire children. And so they have to have 4 doors. So this is the Rapide. My God, is that it?